You post something small, an idea, a project, even a photo of your lunch, and before you realize it, you're checking for likes. You tell yourself it's just curiosity, just checking in, but your mood rises and falls with a little red number on a screen. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, but when no one responds, you feel something sharp in your chest. It matters more than it should. You're not alone. You're wired to respond to praise, to seek it, to feel like something's missing when it's not there. Your parents, your teachers, your bosses, each one handed out approval like a ticket to belong. Now it's in your bloodstream. Praise feels like proof that you're doing okay. And silence? Silence feels like failure. But if you could walk into the room with Epictetus, poor, disabled, ex-slave Epictetus, he would look at you with absolute stillness and say, "Why are you letting strangers decide how you feel today?" And the absurdity of it would strike you like cold water. You begin to see that this hunger for praise, it's not ambition, it's not even pride, it's neediness, and it never ends. The more you get, the more you need. Like a man trying to quench thirst with salt water, you keep drinking. Applause becomes your diet, but it never satisfies. Epictetus was relentless on this point. If you want to be free, he said, care not what others think of you, not once, not in passing, but over and over again. He insisted, praise is external, and what is external is not within your power. Therefore, it is not worth your peace. He used sharp language. Praise, he said, is nothing to the wise man. Imagine that. Nothing, not even a compliment to enjoy for the day. Nothing. Because once you give it meaning, it begins to pull on you. Picture a performer on a stage. The lights, the crowd, the thrill. They leave that night high on energy, replaying every laugh, every clap. But the next show, it doesn't hit as hard. The room isn't as loud. Something feels wrong. They spend the day wondering what changed. But it isn't the performance. It's the expectation. You're no longer doing something for the sake of it. You're doing it to keep the applause coming, and that is the moment you begin to lose yourself. Epictetus said, if someone praises you, beware. Ask yourself, are you still acting with reason? Because if their opinion sways your choices, you've already handed them the reins. This is the Stoic principle of dichotomy of control. There are things you can control, your actions, your values, your thoughts, and things you can't, other people's opinions, weather, traffic, luck. The moment you place your self-worth in something outside your control, you become a prisoner to it, not in chains, but in constant anticipation, constant worry, and constant disappointment. Think back to your own life. When was the last time you did something good and resisted telling anyone? Maybe you bit your tongue. Maybe you helped someone in secret. That feeling, quiet pride, private contentment, that's the Stoic reward. Not applause, not likes, just the quiet truth. You did what you believed was right. Epictetus lived his entire life without fame, fortune, or glory. Yet his words shaped emperors. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, carried Epictetus's teachings in his heart like a compass. Because power alone doesn't free you, praise doesn't protect you, but philosophy teaches you how to walk through applause without bowing, how to hear silence without shrinking. Letting go of praise isn't cynicism, it's clarity. It's the decision to stop performing and start living. Because when you stop chasing attention, you begin to notice something else. Peace. Not the numb kind, the clear kind, the kind that settles into your body like still water after a storm. You won't be perfect at it. The pull of praise is strong, but now you've seen the strings. And once you see them, you can start to cut them, one by one. You'll still post, still speak, still build. But now you'll ask yourself, if no one sees this, if no one applauds, is it still worth doing? And the moment you say yes, that is the moment you begin to be free. You imagine that once you're recognized, really seen, life will finally begin to make sense. The promotion, the applause, the platform. You imagine a moment where people finally get you, where they nod, admire, respect, maybe even envy. You think that will settle the noise inside. But fame is a poor master. It demands everything and gives little. It lifts you high enough to be watched, but not held. And the higher you go, the more you become a shape for others to define. You don't get to stay whole. You become a version, a brand, a product. Epictetus warned against this kind of visibility. If you wish to be popular, he said, you must give up your inner peace. Because being known, really known, is not the same as being understood. Praise can make you a puppet, but fame makes you a prop in someone else's play. You start to perform the role they expect of you. At first, it feels like opportunity, then it becomes armor. You can't be seen without being seen as something. The Stoics knew this trap well. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, had every worldly title: father of the empire, philosopher, king, divine ruler. And still, he wrote in the quiet of his study, fame is emptiness. Not because he was bitter, because he'd lived it. He watched how people praised one emperor, then forgot him when the next one came. He saw how easily love turned to suspicion, admiration to accusation, and through it all, he returned again and again to one conclusion. The only thing that matters is what you are when no one's looking. This is the Stoic teaching of eudaimonia, living in accordance with your nature, your virtue, not according to the crowd, not according to applause, according to reason, according to truth. It's not about hiding from recognition. It's about not needing it to validate your path. Think of a tree growing in a quiet courtyard. It doesn't care if it's seen. It doesn't bloom for compliments. It just grows, up, out, within. It lives as it was meant to live. That's the Stoic ideal. Growth for its own sake. Integrity without an audience. But when you crave praise, you start bending, shaping yourself to fit expectations. You post what people want to hear. You say what they'll agree with. You become what they'll applaud. And slowly, quietly, the shape of who you are gets replaced by a mask you made for survival. Epictetus wasn't impressed by masks. He didn't care about fame or visibility. He taught his students to be wary of any desire that came from outside. Do not wish to be thought wise, he said. Wish instead to be wise. Because wanting the appearance of virtue distracts from the work of becoming it. Imagine that. You walk into a room and no one notices. Your project gets no attention. Your words don't trend, but you know you did it honestly. You stayed aligned. No bending, no performing, just steady hands and a clear mind. That is worth more than gold to the Stoic. History gives us a chilling reminder in the story of Heraclitus, the philosopher who turned down public acclaim and walked away from it all. He saw how quickly fame corrupted even the wisest minds. He chose obscurity and silence over a life spent polishing a public image. His philosophy was not to be remembered, but to live well. And in doing so, he was remembered for the right reasons. You begin to see the distinction. Not all who are known are great. Not all who are unknown are small. Stoicism teaches you to invert the lens. Instead of asking how many follow you, ask, do I follow my own principles? Instead of wondering how you're seen, ask, can I stand to see myself clearly? This isn't just about social media or celebrity. It's about everyday life. The way you change your words in a meeting to sound smarter. The way you over-explain a decision so people won't judge. The way you feel smaller when someone else gets the credit. That's the shadow of fame, creeping into the small spaces of your day. You don't need to escape the world, but you do need to stop outsourcing your peace to it. Let others chase followers. Let others brand themselves. You are training in a different art. The art of presence without pretense, action without applause, self-respect without spectacle. Because real dignity is quiet and real fulfillment, it has nothing to do with being seen. You receive a compliment, and it lands like sunlight on your skin. You feel seen, validated. Then it fades, and you look around for another. You don't call it dependence, you call it encouragement. But underneath, there's a pattern forming, a silent contract between your self-worth and someone else's words. This is the danger Epictetus warned about. Praise is not a gift. It is a trap. It looks like kindness, but it binds you. The moment you tie your self-respect to approval, you build your identity on ground that is not yours. You hand over the steering wheel of your life to someone else's hands, and sometimes those hands don't even know you. Epictetus called it being a puppet, a mind pulled by strings of reputation, applause, flattery. And what happens when the crowd stops clapping? You fall, you tumble, not because you've done wrong, but because the strings have gone slack. You don't know how to stand without them. It's not weakness, it's conditioning. You've been taught to believe that praise means value, that without recognition, your effort doesn't count. So you try harder, you become sharper, more accommodating, more pleasing, you adjust, and slowly, without knowing it, you become addicted to being liked. Seneca knew this well. In his early years, he wrote about detachment, discipline, rationality. But then came Nero, the emperor, the madman, the sun around which the Roman court spun. Seneca became his advisor, then his puppet. He shaped his words for the emperor's ear, watered down his truth. And though he amassed wealth and praise, the cost was his soul's quiet. When Nero turned on him, Seneca fell not just from power, but from himself. He saw too late what Epictetus taught so clearly. Do not seek to be praised, and you will not fear to be blamed. The craving for applause opens the door to control. If you rise with their cheers, you will fall with their silence. And you can't live steadily when you're constantly measuring yourself against the mirror of others' opinions. You don't have to be a philosopher in the Roman court to feel this trap. It's in your workplace, your family, your friend group. It's in the way you edit your words mid-sentence, just to sound agreeable. It's in the panic you feel after sharing an idea, hoping someone says, "Good job." You're not weak, you're caught. And the first step out is recognition. Ask yourself, what am I doing today to be liked? Not respected, not heard, just liked. Where am I shaving off edges, shrinking, stretching, twisting myself into a version that fits the audience? Then go deeper. If I received no thanks, no approval, no visible success, would I still do this? Epictetus taught that your actions are your responsibility, but the reactions are not. That's the Stoic principle of emotional ownership. He compared people to actors in a play. You don't write the script, you don't cast the roles, but you do get to choose how well you play your part. So play it well, not for applause, not for validation, but because it's your role, your task, your truth. There's a moment recorded in the teachings of Musonius Rufus, Epictetus's own teacher. A student once asked him how to deal with being overlooked. The reply was simple. Do not act for notice. Act from necessity, not for praise, for purpose. This doesn't mean you become cold. It means you become free. You stop living for the echo of your own name. You stop fearing disapproval like it's a sentence. You remember who you were before others told you who to be. Imagine standing in front of someone who is complimenting you, lavishly. Instead of chasing the compliment, you thank them, but your mind stays steady. You know who you are. Their words are pleasant, but not defining, like a breeze passing through an open window. It comes, it goes, you remain. That's the Stoic aim. Not indifference that looks like bitterness, but freedom that feels like wholeness. Because the moment you stop letting praise define you is the moment you stop fearing its absence. And once you are no longer afraid of being unseen, you begin to move with a different kind of clarity. You speak truth even when it won't be popular. You take action even when no one notices. You do what's right, not what's praised. And what happens then? You grow into someone no one can manipulate, someone who does not rise or fall with opinion, someone who belongs not to the crowd, but to themselves. You wake up and your mind is already racing. What do they think of me? Maybe you're not asking the question outright. but it's there, coiled under your choices. It shapes your tone in that email. It lingers in the silence after you speak up in a meeting. It waits with you, watching your screen, hoping for approval to arrive. But there's another way to begin the day, a quieter way, one that doesn't depend on the shifting weather of public opinion. Epictetus called it preparation, the practice of praise indifference, not through suppression, but through attention. You learn to notice the craving for approval and release it again and again, like exhaling. He taught that just as athletes train their bodies for resistance, philosophers train their minds for detachment. You don't wait for the world to disappoint you. You rehearse that disappointment in advance, not to become cynical, but to become unshakable. Imagine this: each morning, before you step into the world's eyes, you sit for a moment. You remind yourself, today, someone may ignore me, someone may praise me, someone may insult me. None of that is mine to control. And then you go on with your day, not armored, but clear. This is the Stoic exercise of premeditatio malorum, anticipating what might happen. So you are not ruled by surprise. You picture rejection, dismissal, indifference. You feel the sting in your imagination. And then, when it arrives in real life, you say, there you are. I've already met you this morning. It's not masochism. It's mental resilience. Epictetus didn't want you to pretend praise doesn't feel good. He wanted you to recognize that needing it puts you in chains. Another practice, journaling, not a diary of what others did, but a record of what you did. Where did you act according to your principles? Where did you bend for applause? When you track your choices in writing, patterns emerge. You stop being a character reacting to praise and become an author, one who writes from within. He also advised deliberate silence. When someone flatters you, smile, but don't take the bait. When someone ignores you, notice the space it opens. When the room quiets after your idea, sit with the discomfort. These moments are your training ground. Praise indifference isn't built in grand gestures. It's forged in the small, ordinary tests of every day. There's a story about Cato the Younger, a Stoic who lived in the last days of the Roman Republic. He was offered public honors multiple times, titles, recognition, fame. He refused them all, not because he hated attention, but because he knew it blurred the line between virtue and vanity. He feared becoming addicted to applause, and so he practiced the discipline of doing good without letting anyone glorify him for it. Imagine what that kind of discipline looks like in your life. You hold the door, but you don't wait for thanks. You send the kind message, even if it goes unanswered. You speak the truth, even if it lands with a thud. And each time, you ask yourself, was I proud of the action itself, or only the reaction it produced? The point isn't to become a monk or retreat from society. The point is to move through society without being moved by it, to stay rooted while the wind of opinion blows. Epictetus compared it to being a stone tossed into a river. You can't stop the splash, but you don't have to float away. You let the world do what it does, while you remain steady at the bottom. This training isn't glamorous. No one will give you a trophy for it. In fact, the better you get at it, the less praise you'll notice at all. But the reward is deeper than recognition. It's the ability to look in the mirror at the end of the day and say, I live by my measure, not theirs. And when someone praises you, you'll smile, not because you need it, but because you don't. You'll begin to understand something subtle. Praise is not evil. It's just unreliable. It's not poison. It's perfume. Pleasant, but not nourishing. And you don't build a life around fragrance. So, you begin the work. One morning at a time, one journal line at a time, one silent moment at a time. Not chasing applause, not fearing rejection, just walking your path with both eyes open. And every time the old urge returns, do they like me? Did they notice? You gently return to the question that matters more. Did I do what I believe is right? And that answer, more than anyone's praise, becomes your peace. There's a moment when you finally stop asking if you're being praised enough. It doesn't arrive with a bang. It arrives quietly, like the sound of shoes on gravel as you walk away from something that no longer holds you. You're not bitter. You're not hiding. You're just done performing. This is the turning point Epictetus leads you toward. Not just rejecting praise, but forgetting to even chase it. Not because it's bad, but because it doesn't matter the way you thought it did. Because now, you are no longer building your life for applause, you are building it for alignment. The Stoics taught that the only true good is virtue, not wealth, not recognition, not success, just integrity, living in agreement with nature, with reason, with your own inner compass. You can't fake it, you can't rent it, you can only embody it. That's why Epictetus didn't say stop caring about praise as a throwaway line. He taught it as a serious discipline, because he understood the truth. If you need to be seen doing good in order to do good, you aren't free. You're still owned by approval, by image, by fear. Letting go of praise clears the space to ask the harder, richer questions. What kind of person am I becoming? Am I honest when no one's checking? Am I kind when there's nothing to gain? Am I useful when there's no glory to it? There's a story told of a Stoic teacher, one of Epictetus's lesser-known students, who gave a speech in a crowded marketplace. Midway through, a small group gathered and began clapping. He stopped speaking, he packed up his notes and walked away. When asked why, he said, "I came here to speak truth, not to entertain." That's the kind of clarity Stoicism trains into you. The kind that says, I don't perform, I practice, I don't impress, I embody. I don't need to be praised, I need to be real. Because what is praise, really? It's a shadow, a reaction, a reflection of someone else's tastes, biases, distractions. Sometimes it's sincere, often it's not. You can't control how it comes. You can't control if it stays. But you can decide whether you build your identity on something so unstable. You stop trying to look like the kind of person who lives well. You become one. You start asking different questions. Am I proud of this choice? Does this align with my principles? Did I show up the way I want to remember? And slowly, praise becomes irrelevant, not because you hate it, but because you've outgrown it. You start seeing others differently, too. The person who constantly brags, you don't resent them. You see the hunger behind their noise. The colleague obsessed with credit, you see their fear of being invisible. The influencer polishing every post, you see the pressure in their performance. You meet all of them with a quieter heart because you know that hunger yourself, and now you are learning to leave it behind. Letting go of praise isn't about being silent. It's about being sovereign. You still speak, still act, still create, but now your motive is different. You are not here to be seen. You are here to be whole. That doesn't mean you'll never enjoy recognition. It just means you're not ruled by it. When it comes, you thank it. When it doesn't, you don't shrink. You walk into every room the same way, with your self-worth in your own hands. And in time, people will sense it. Not the arrogance of someone who doesn't care, but the calm of someone who doesn't need. Someone who is no longer auditioning, no longer peering into faces, wondering if they're enough. You will be enough because you live like someone who is, not because anyone told you so. That's what Epictetus was trying to give you. Not rules, as not theories. A kind of freedom that no one can take. A way of being in the world without being owned by it. You let go of praise, not because it's wrong, but because it distracts. You release it the way a climber lets go of an unnecessary weight, gratefully and without drama. You reach for something higher now, something quieter, something yours. And so, you return to your day, unchanged on the outside, perhaps, but lighter inside. The need for praise, it's still there, but quieter now. You've seen behind the curtain. You know what matters more. There will be moments when the hunger returns. That's okay. You'll meet it like an old friend you no longer travel with. From now on, you live to be, not to be praised. And in that decision, you step into a different kind of life. Not louder, but freer. Thank you for listening. Take care and keep walking your path.